autographed hardcover special edition copy of Land of Childhood's Fears will be sent to you for a $100 donation, or you can buy the book directly from the publisher. See links in the description.
Hello, this is Dave from Net4 Truth USA. It is February 3rd, 2017. Welcome to another Night Coffee with Dave, or at least Evening Coffee with Dave. This is number 254. I guess we've all had a day or so, depending on where you live, to mull over the ramifications of this Nunes memo that has come out. And of course, YouTube is demonetizing any video that talks about the Nunes memo, and mine get demonetized before they even finish uploading. So your support is the only thing that keeps this thing going, because if I've got to take 6 hours out of my day to research what I'm saying, put it all together, make a video, compile the video, do all the graphics and all that other stuff, and then upload the video with the attendant bandwidth cost, because I do it from my phone. So if it wasn't for you guys out there, all 28,000 some odd subscribers, those who contribute and those who bought my book, either through LuLu.com or from me personally autographed, I want to thank you. By looking at the comments on my last two videos, I can see that Americans are really pissed off. And that is healthy, when you can piss a whole country off, or damn near all of them, those that are not infected with this libtardistan virus. It's healthy, because up until this point, everybody has been glued to that mainstream media, not knowing, and in fact believing, that the mainstream media was reporting the news. And they've not reported the news, not only recently, but for a long, long time, since President Kennedy. And that's, believe me, this is a gut feeling. I don't have it on paper. I don't have a government document. I don't have no dossiers to show you. But I'm telling you, it's gonna come out that this is the case. We have been living in a world of smoke, mirrors, and a Gordian knot of bullshit since John F. Kennedy was assassinated, up until recently, because the frazzled rat and her cabal did not factor in this medium right here. And as much as they censor it, and as much as they demonetize it, it has the opposite of the intended effect. It has the opposite of the intended effect, because how does somebody who's doing this part-time from his kitchen, sucking on a cup of coffee and a cigarette, get almost 29,000 subscribers in less than a year and a half? And I'm no Justin Bieber. I'm not some movie star with the glitter and the glamour. I'm just telling the truth. I'm just telling you the truth. As a patriot, I have to do this. Whether it costs me money or it makes me money, it doesn't matter. I have to do this. Because all that it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. That's a quote from Edmund Burke. And if you go to my website, the homepage has a whole slew of quotes. But nobody listens to quotes anymore. We have people who have committed murder. Murder for hire. Hillary Clinton. Slam dunk case for any court in the nation. If you have more than 3 bodies next to you, they're going to look at you with a skewed eye. You know what I mean? She's got how many? Over 100 that croaked around her. Over 100. And nobody says nothing. The news media doesn't even raise the question. How many dead people do you have that you know that died of unnatural causes? Plane crashes, car crashes, commit suicide, shot themselves in the back of the head twice. And now we have the train wreck that was alleged to be another hit job against the people who voted to have the memo released. Well, if you didn't do nothing wrong, is the argument, why not release the memo? And the counter argument in court would have been, it doesn't matter if you did nothing wrong. The law is the law. I have to have probable cause, a reasonable certainty that a crime has been committed in order to violate somebody's Fourth Amendment right to privacy and to be left the fuck alone. But these people used the law enforcement agencies of this government and the intelligence agencies of this government to fight a political war against someone who, if he got in power, would expose all of the corruption that has been going on for years and years and decades. And that is precisely what Donald Trump is doing. And you might ask, well, why ain't a whole bunch of people in handcuffs? Well, that's a question I can't answer. Most logically, it would be that they are lulling all the other major actors into a false sense of security, and then when the hammer hits, it's going to hit all at once, and it's going to be military, because there is not enough civilians. There is not enough civilian law enforcement to go out and arrest upwards of 13,000 people simultaneously. Because once you get one and you don't get the other one's going to crawl into a hole like Saddam Hussein. Not that he did anything wrong, but he hid in a hole. He was the only one keeping the country together until he wanted to go against the petrodollar, and that's a big no-no. That's a big no-no. Once you go against the currency, once you go against the Federal Reserve Bank, that's big mafia money right there. And you might say, well, they're not the mafia. Well, they're whatever you want to call it. They're organized crime. Been so since they started. Been ripping us off since they started. Same with the IRS. There is no law that says that you, an American citizen working for a living, has to pay income tax. There is no law. There's a reward out of $50,000 for anybody who can show the law. And you can go to my website at netfortruthUSA.com/taxesatwork.htm and look at the videos there and look at the text on that page. There is no law that says that you have to pay income tax. There is no law that says a corporation, public or private, that employs people to work for a living that have to withhold taxes from an employee's salary. What would happen if all of a sudden every little private company and every corporation in America said, you know what? We're not withholding any taxes from anybody. We're paying them the salary, and that's that. If they want to, if they're stupid enough to kick into the cabal, that's up to them. But we ain't withholding. What are they going to do? Not a goddamn thing. They can't do shit. Now, here's another thing. If you are going to stop all of the counterfeiting that North Korea is doing, they got plates. They got those guys over there pretty good at to make up plates. You know what I mean? They make up plates are really good. And the only problem is they don't have the paper, so they come up with a pretty good facsimile of paper. You can hardly tell a $20 bill made over there than the one that the Federal Reserve prints up. And one merchant over here, locally over here, just caught a $50 bill that was bogus. And the feds came and investigated. And sure enough, it was bogus. So it came from somewhere. Came out of somewhere. These bills are so good that they put them in the ATMs now. They can't tell them apart. They're not testing every bill they put in the ATM. So when you take a counterfeit bill out of a $20 bill out of an ATM and go spend it, and a guy catches, that's on you. You're a counterfeiter. You want to stop it? Good. Change the whole money. Anybody who's been in Vietnam, been overseas, knows what a military payment certificate is. When I arrived in Tan Son Nhut Air Base back in 1970, they took all my money that I had, all my greenbacks, and gave me this monopoly money shit. You could, if I had a inkjet printer over there, I could have come home rich, because it was monopoly. It was monopoly money. And the only place that monopoly money was good at was at the base exchange, the PX. Couldn't go downtown Saigon and spend it. Wasn't worth the shit to them. So that's how, you could probably exchange it for a pack of cigarettes or something, back and forth. But the intent was, because at that time, you could still trade dollars for silver or gold at the bank. So if the enemy would get enough dollars together, they could come over and go to a bank and get real money. Can't have that, so they made military payment certificates. If you change the money into another form of currency, another completely different, put chips in them, put barcodes on them, put little Q codes, whatever, on each one, it's going to be hard to counterfeit them. And better than that, all the people who have squirreled away these billions of dollars in Swiss banks and Qatar and everybody else, that's US dollars. Those banks and those institutions that are laundering money will have to show where the money came from. They would have to show a legitimate source of this money. Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, where the fuck did all your money come from? You sure as hell didn't get it out of your salary. Or maybe you were like Hillary Clinton playing the pork belly futures. If you remember that one. If you don't, look it up. She was working on Wall Street, trading pork bellies, making billions. And the gold mines, the fake gold mines that they're laundering gold from Nazi Germany still, laundering through these defunct gold mines that all of a sudden, we found gold in a defunct gold mine. Right. And if you remember, back in the days, a couple of years after 9/11, they had a company making these commemorative coins, and the advertisement said, made from silver, plated with, plated silver, but plated with silver recovered from the World Trade Center. And that hit a lot of people upside the head like a sledgehammer. But silver recovered from the World Trade Center. What the fuck are you talking about? Now, either the advertisement is bullshit trying to make you get those coins, or maybe there's something to this. Now, I worked in a trade center for 15 years. I worked for IBM. Now, I had a dozen customers in those two towers. And I can tell you there was gold down in the basement, along with silver and precious metals and diamonds and rubies and all types of shit. De Beers had their own vault down there. Silver recovered from the World Trade Center. How the fuck does that happen? They would have had to crawl through molten steel that was still percolating under the foundation of the World Trade Center 3 months after 9/11, so friggin' hot they could see it from space, to recover silver from the World Trade Center. So that advertising didn't make any sense, They know it was bullshit, but it got people thinking, wait a minute, silver on the bottom of the World Trade Center. I wonder if there was gold down there. And there was gold down there. More gold than Fort Knox ever had, I can tell you. Down the street is the Federal Reserve Bank of New York with walls of granite, stones that had to be at least a yard thick. They ain't knocking that over. You can crash atom bombs into that building. Ain't going to do nothing. So the next best thing is the World Trade Center. And those trade centers had offices of all the alphabet soup agencies along with Building 7 that had all the information and all the evidence for the 1980s bank debacles that they were looking into. Believe me, this memo, they're pulling the strings. It's going to come out. 9/11. Then it's going to come out the shorting of the stocks, of the airline stocks before, a couple of weeks before. Larry Silverstein, his investment, why he bought the Trade Center 2 weeks before the buildings came down. All the insurance companies that paid out money. All of this stuff is all related and it's all on the same string. It's all on the same string. Keep pulling the string. We have to do it because the mainstream media doesn't have any investigative reporters anymore. Hasn't had them for a long, long time. And just to prove to you that the mainstream media is bullshitting you, the most recent incident is NBC accidentally aired that the Hildebeest, the frazzled rat, otherwise known as Hillary Rodham Clinton, died. And then they pulled the thing off the air, like it never happened. How many fake news things that do we caught them in? We caught them with the planes hit. There was no planes hit the Trade Center. That was all CGI. That was all computer-generated bullshit that went through. And it ain't no plane going to go through one side of one of those World Trade Towers and have the nose of it come out the other side. You see them on all the films. The nose comes out the other side. No way. It was down on my 9/11 playlist. And you'll hundreds of hours. There's one clip there where the core tower is sitting there 1 minute and it doesn't topple over, it doesn't break, it doesn't do nothing. It just melts into dust. And you see the antenna on the tower. When the tower got hit and started to collapse, the antenna came down like this, and if it would have hit the ground, it would have hit Church Street. But it went through the cloud, it went into the cloud and never came out. It just vaporized, it disintegrated. There's some kind of atomic weapon used to bring those towers down. And explosives planted, and the CGI put in there to make it appear as though the plane hit the tower. Now what happened to the people on the actual flights? They got intercepted. They landed somewhere else, and the people were eliminated, disposed of, liquidated, murdered, whatever you want to call it. Because too many things don't fit. 19 hijackers with box cutters are not going to take over 4 airplanes. I'm 67 years old, and you come at me with a box cutter, you might cut me a couple of times, but I guarantee you, if you're not dead when you get off that plane, you're going to have a proctologist going up your ass about 12 inches to pull that thing out of you. And you're going to take over military-trained pilots with a box cutter? You know what? I feel like a Lionel train going around the track under the Christmas tree, you know? With the little puffs of smoke coming out of the chimney from people blowing smoke up my ass for 55 years. So, I don't know what to say anymore here. All I know is, I know what I know. I can't prove 90% of what I know. But, if you remember, or if you go back, November 15th of 2016, I reported that there was a recording of Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton on the airplane. I got a letter in the mail, unsigned No stamp, nothing. Just put in my mailbox. Why? I don't know. Why I was picked? Who the fuck knows? I have no idea. And it had to be something that was true, because the person who left that letter there obviously knew me, knew where I lived, and knew that I would put it out on Front Street. And that video, last time I looked, had over 675,000 views. It was a piece of shit video with a brand new phone with no software, just done on the spur of the moment, lips out of sync, the whole nine. Turns out that the letter was a runaround, was a heads up, was a made up story about a tape recorder being left on the plane, when in fact the tape recorder was built into the plane. It was the cabin voice recorder. The passenger cabin voice recorder on a private charter jet, which all of them have. They have a cockpit recorder and have a cabin recorder. And the pilot, who I believe took that recording out of the mechanism that records it on the plane onto a flash drive or something, and brought the recording and said, I overheard the conversation, brought it to Reuters. I heard the conversation between Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton, and blah, 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 blah. And a couple of days later, the guy ends up dead, committed suicide. There's Arkansas. We all know that. Can't prove it, but we know. Because anybody who has tried to double-cross the frazzled rat or expose her for the criminal that she is has ended up dead. And if I end up dead, I didn't commit suicide. I have everything to live for. I want to see this bitch hang. I live to see that day. If I could get a front row seat, I'd die tomorrow a happy man, knowing that I left this planet a lot better than when I came into it. But I believe Donald Trump is trying to avoid the second revolution of pissed off patriots who, if they started arresting the Hildebeest, her former or her current supporters who still want to see her in the White House, why? I don't know. There's this disease that's going around. It's called liberalism. We got to find a cure, because it's worse than airborne Ebola. It just eats your brain until there's nothing left. Just enough to keep your heart beating, your lungs pumping, and your ass shitting. We got to find a cure before it wipes out humanity. And now there's rumors that they might try a false flag, because what the hell? They've murdered how many other people? They're going to get caught for that. You can't execute somebody twice. Even if they kill 100 people, you only can put the needle in their arm once. You only can hang them once. You only can firing squad them once. So they got nothing left to lose, because they know the sword of Damocles is hanging by a hair over their head. And all it takes is one more blow and it's done. So don't underestimate these people. Don't think that they have any conscience, because every year the whole fucking lot of them go into the woods in Bohemian Grove in California and burn. They cremate care. C-A-R-E. They cremate care. And you can look at my video, the cremation of Bohemian Grove. It has the whole thing there. And what is care? Care is as in give a shit. We burn our conscience. We don't give a shit. That's what they are. They don't give a shit about you, me, or anybody else. All they care about is their owl god, their Molech that they sacrifice little babies to. And we know that, but we can't prove it. But the proof is going to come pretty soon. 800,000 children in this United States of America missing. Where the fuck are they? Nobody says a word. Nobody in the mainstream media even mentions it. There's not even a statistical mention of all these human beings, these innocent little children missing, and who's in charge or who's working at, which is, if the deep state has a plant somewhere, like in the news, like the janitor working at NBC is in charge of NBC. Trust me on this one. Who's working at the Center for Missing and Exploited Children under another name? Laura Silsby, the woman who was caught red-handed by the Haitian police and put in prison, convicted. Convicted! In prison in fucking Haiti. And who helps her out? Bill and Hillary Clinton. Somehow got her off. They paid off the cops. They paid off the warden. Who knows what they did. But they got her out. No, we can tell who you are by the people you hang out with. Both her and her husband flew multiple times on Larry Epstein's Lolita Express. Went out to the island out in the U.S. Virgin Islands, onto his little thing there, worshiping Molech. Who knows what the fuck they do over there. Probably sacrificing children. Nobody investigates. I mean, these people have gotten away with this stuff for so long that they think they are invincible. And their thinking that they are invincible is their weakness, because when you think you're invincible, you don't take any forensic countermeasures. In fact, you do just the opposite. You make videotapes of you and Huma Abedin and a 12-year-old girl who's being sexually tortured that the New York Police Department allegedly has a copy of. When I have it on good authority that it does exist. Why does the New York Police Department not release the tape? Because if that tape came out the way this Nunes memo came out, the entire country would grab a machete, a pitchfork, a gun, a knife, anything, and they would seek out the Hildebeest and they would beat her into a pile of Alpo. That's why. And her minions paid by Soros would be there, and we would have to engage them in civil warfare. Which is what it's coming to. Which is what it's coming to, because it's inevitable. This is let me tell you something. Civil war, or what would be more accurately named and described as Revolution 2.0, is inevitable. Tell you what. If all of this shit is not released, and if these people are not tried, convicted, and executed for treason against the United States, then we the people have to assume that whoever's in charge, whether it's Trump or Sessions or anybody, is in with them. And now that we know what we know, we have a moral obligation to act. And what is that moral obligation? Nothing less than the overthrow of the United States government in its entirety. In its entirety, including the president. Now, he's put himself in quite a nasty situation, because it's almost a catch-22. Almost. I don't know how he's going to run around this. Donald Trump has to order the arrest of all of these people. And you see that they're holding back over 13,000 federal indictments, whether they're for child trafficking or drug trafficking or whatever it is, or a combination of all of the above. We don't know. We have no way of finding out until the indictments are unsealed. And when you have a sealed indictment against a mafia don, or even a mafia made guy or whatever, you don't make that public if you're after the number one guy. Because as soon as the wise guy gets arrested, tried, and convicted, the don isn't going to sit there and wait for the marshals to come in the door. He's going to do everything he can, or she can, to avoid being similarly situated. Or perhaps they're holding these sealed indictments, thinking that one of their little secret operatives somewhere has got this under control, which is highly unlikely because these sealed indictments are from all 50 states. He would have to have the higher-ups, the governors, and the higher-ups in all 50 states under his thumb, under her thumb, whatever, compromised in order for that to happen, and that is extremely, extremely unlikely. What is likely is this. These people, one way or another, will pay for their crimes. They will not live out their days in peace. They will always be looking behind their back. They will always have to have cadres of security. And believe me, I knew Mr. Arthur Bernclau for many years. He was a Marine sniper for 13 years in Vietnam. Over 200 confirmed kills. Never missed once. Never wasted a bullet. This man could take your head off from 1.5 miles away with an M14. And you tell me that if somebody is really after the wildebeest, or anybody for that matter, that person is going to run around the rest of his or her life with 1.5 miles of secured perimeter. It is not possible. It's not even possible for the president. And the deep state knows if Donald Trump so much as catches the flu, it's all over for them. There will be not one stone left standing in Washington, D.C. if that happens. Trust me on this one. This is Dave from net4truth.usa.com. If you like these videos, please support us because YouTube is not monetizing any of my videos anymore. Take care. Bye-bye.
Autographed hardcover special edition copy of Land of Childhood's Fears will be sent to you for a $100 donation. You can get the book from Amazon or buy it directly from the publisher at LuLu.com. Links are in the description section.